Okay, Sam Medrano, special events mission statement.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, last year, and actually this goes back further than last year, but last year we had talked about more or less coming up with a mission statement to give an overview of what it is that we're trying to accomplish with our special events, and then come up with goals to determine whether or not the special events we are holding meet the expectations of that mission statement. And we haven't done that. We did that. We thought it was a good idea last year, and we haven't done it. And I have been talking with the staff about what it would take to do that. We're not really trying to recreate the wheel here. It's just, if we're going to have special events, we got to have a reason to have the special events. We on council know what those reasons are. We want to bring people into our community. We want to stimulate our economy. We want to brand our city. The regatta is a great example of putting a face to Bullhead City. We understand that, but when it comes to our residents and when it comes to people looking at it, why we do this is not something that a city normally does. We should have something in place to say, we do this, and this is the reasons why. And I think that developing a mission statement is a good way to do that. I think staff, I'm not here to develop one today. I'm not here to develop the measurable standards of which we determine a special event to be a success or not. As we go through and determining other special events, I know I've talked to Toby, there's different ideas as to what special events we can bring here. How do we know which ones work, which ones don't? There are going to be special events that we hold here in our city that don't work. But we're not going to know that. It could take years for us to have a bad event over and over and over again if we don't know what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And so I want to start with a special event. I do have other topics under this item that I want to talk about, but I wanted to talk about that first. I think, like I said, I think a mission statement, an overall idea of what it is we're trying to accomplish with these things needs to be out forefront and kind of guide us as to what events we put on later. I think that would be a very appropriate thing to do.
Mayor, Dave and Ed are here, and they've got some ideas as well on this, and so they're prepared to talk about it as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Your thoughts, Dave?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. We've considered what it is that we do when it comes to, when you go up front.
Dave, come up here.
We've given a lot of consideration to what it is that we do when it comes to events and tournaments for the community, why we do them, like Councilman Medrano said, what is our goal? What are we trying to achieve here? And as you think about something as broad as that, you kind of throw a lot against the wall. We started looking at other cities and what they might have for mission statements for things like their event and tourism commissions, or other groups that they might have like that. Found a lot of stuff within like chambers of commerce and things like that. But as we were thinking about it, we were thinking, okay, what do? We do events like the regatta, like Winter Festival. We do tournaments like our senior softball tournaments. The goals of doing those things are, one, to provide an excellent recreational opportunity for citizens and visitors alike. And I think the tourism aspect, bringing visitors to the town, is a big part of it. And then we realize that bringing visitors to town is a big part of what we're doing and why we're having tournaments and events. The follow-up question to that is, okay, why do we want to bring tourists to town? Why do we want to bring visitors to Bullhead? Well, I think first and foremost, it's economic impact. We want to have them come to town, enjoy what they're doing here, have such a good time that they decide to drop a few dollars while they're here on food and gas and hotel rooms and whatever other amenities that we might have here available for them. And if it goes really, really well, maybe they fall in love with Bullhead City, maybe they get a house here. That's happened a few times with our softball tournament. So we want those visitors to come to town to help make an economic impact on our community, but we also want those visitors to come to town and just simply have a good time, to have a nice recreation experience, just like we want for our citizens when we're here. So what I've done, and Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I'll hand these out to everybody. But we came up with a few ideas, and to call them ideas might be a little stretch. We stole these from wherever we could get them, you know, why reinvent the wheel. And I'll let you know right up front, I'm not in love with any of these, but I figured it's a good starting point for us all to look at and start getting ideas of where we want to go and what exactly our mission statement would be and what it is that we want to achieve with events and tournaments and other activities that we might have. Any questions?
No, I guess we could just all review these and get back to you with our thoughts on it.
Sure. I think that would work, Mr. Mayor. I think another thing too is I'd like, and Dave mentioned this, and I thought was a good idea, was to work with the Parks and Recreation Commission to actually develop a mission statement that could be brought before the council for us to actually formally adopt as part of whatever it is that they come up with. I think it's a good start. Again, going through the process of actually putting down why it is we're doing what we're doing. We have a mission statement on our what we do as a city and as a council, and you know, making a community and so on and so forth. As far as the measurabilities as to whether an event is successful or not, that's something that staff needs to get together and do. And I say that because there's a lot of subjectiveness as to whether or not an event's successful. Because I, for one, tell you right now, you know, the $12,000 that we quote unquote lost on the regatta was money well spent, in my opinion. And I still consider the regatta a huge success, even though we spent $12,000 more than we brought in. And the process that I came up with on a personal level to make that determination was, you know, we spent $300 and some odd thousand in local businesses from people that came from outside our community. Our sales tax increased by $35,000 that month. Overall, those things add up to success for me. There are also intangible things that we can never measure, like what was the exposure Bullhead City got as a result? What kind of a statement does that make for Bullhead City in terms of notoriety and the branding that goes with it? We can't measure those types of things, but to me that we're still very much a part of this year's regatta. So in my eyes, using my own standards, it was a success. So, but not everybody shares the same thing that I do. And so when I say things like measure our special events against a set of criteria as to whether it's a success or not, I think that's for the staff to develop. I think it's something we need to have. Again, the regatta is a huge success in my book. We could have an event down the road that isn't a success, and we need to be able to say it's not a success because of this. All right, now moving on to a different aspect of the same topic, our sports tournaments. When I first suggested sports tournaments, God, it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago? I don't remember. I brought it up as the idea of making Bullhead City the sports tournament capital of the world. And I thought that was a nice, catchy way to do that, because we were taking advantage of so many different things. The weather, the facilities that we had. I was a part of the AYSO soccer tournament when it first started years and years and years ago. And I, as a part of that board, I said, gee, we're bringing in a lot of people to Bullhead City. I wonder what kind of impact this really is having on our community. And so I made it a point, one of the years that I was there, to actually talk to participants, not the participants because they're only this big, but to their parents, to their grandparents. And I was absolutely amazed at how much money they actually spent in Bullhead City way back then. And I thought, their number one reason for coming here, twofold. Number one, all the fields were in one location, and number two was just the absolute weather. The third thing was because of what was offered in Laughlin. Since then, we increased the size of our softball tournaments, added another softball tournament. Toby tells me that you're considering having an adult soccer tournament. There's just no end to the number of sports tournaments that we can have here in Bullhead City with the facilities that we have. Our facilities are expanding at Rotary Park thanks to Legacy and to CAF Properties and all the other people there. And I think I think now is an opportunity for us to help get the community invigorated about what we consider to be a thriving economic engine for our community. What I'm thinking is let's take a hold of something and akin to the sports tournament capital of the world. Let's have a contest to develop a logo to that effect and have an annual for at least our softball tournaments, because they are just absolutely growing like wildfire. If you sit down and talk to Ryan for a while and hear what he hears from the participants and things like that, you'll get excited for Bullhead City just listening to Ryan talk. And I would like us to have a logo contest that goes on backs of shirts and so on and so forth, kind of really akin to what we do with the regatta. And then every year have a contest for a t-shirt design, a theme, if you will, because one of the things that sports tournament people really get into, and I'll give you another example, is the souvenir aspect of it. Even the referees at the AYSO tournament, Bill Weaver, who for the longest time managed the referees at the AYSO tournament, every year had to come up with something new to give the referees that came, because it was such a big deal to get something different from Bullhead City. One year he had referee shirts that had referee on the sides of the sleeves all the way down to the wrists, and that was important. The next year he had to have coins made so that they had souvenir coins, so that they did a coin toss, but they get to keep that coin. And that was a big deal to them. If we can come up with something like that, do the same thing exactly. I mean, again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We've already done it with the regatta. But let's do it for our sports tournaments, because there is economic development waiting to be had. And I think we can just make it better. Plus, by having a contest, an annual contest, you know, not necessarily have the logo contest like we did for the regatta, where we have just one contest for the logo, and then have an annual contest for the actual softball tournaments, or maybe we can do it for all the sports tournaments. We do obviously make enough money to do that. We can afford it because the softball tournaments actually make money for the city. I think it's just a good way to get the community behind it as well.
Any thoughts?
I have some comments on various aspects. First one, Sam was saying, you know, going in debt $12,000 on the regatta, we consider this a success, and I do also. I'm thinking that maybe the city, not necessarily that it means, we'll probably share it at some point in time, should come up with a scorecard. Just like if you have people going and checking out a restaurant and they get this rating, or this rating, if the regatta goes minus 15,000, it gets an A. If it goes minus 20,000, it gets some kind of scorecard on the dollar figure that says success, failure. Now, whether that's publicized or whether it's just within the city for a goal or what, I'm not sure. But you need to have some kind of go by. And then when we were talking about the mission statement, and first off, I thought right off, Parks and Rec should be doing this mission statement. That's their bailiwick. But taking it another step further and going to when we went to I'll get the right word, League of Cities and Towns. The tri-state needs to work together, because what we need to do is to get the people to come and stay. So it might be not a bad idea to have the 3 Parks and Recs get together and say, how can we work together as a team. Bullhead is having a softball tournament. Now, what can we do at the same time to keep people here or right after it? So I think that might be something that we would want to look at through the Tri-City Council to take that one step further. And I think that's all I have.
If I could mention, the Tri-City Council, when it was brought up about getting the Arizona tourism to pay more attention to us, the three tourism groups from Havasu and Kingman and Bullhead have met. And there is a plan on the table now in promoting our market, okay, as a tourist attraction, and where they would bring these riders in, these tourists, people that go throughout the state, and they would bring these riders in, and they would travel, maybe 8 or 9 of them, and it would travel through the 3 cities, you know, meeting with the recreation department and other departments to talk about what each city has to offer.
Well, see, and when you take it along with that, Parks and Rec to me is like really the heart of what Bullhead City is. Because that's what I think we're a recreation community, and that's what we're trying to get across to the people that live in other places. So I think it all starts with Parks and Rec. And Parks and Rec makes it part of tourism. And so I'd like to see them take a major role in that.
The one problem, I have no problem working with Kingman and Havasu, and we do it all the time. And you know, when people are here for tournaments and activities, they do take side trips, and you know, promoting our neighbors for those side trips, I think, is great. As far as the amenity and the economic drivers, we're not willing to share this information. We're not willing to share these events, and that's just a fact.
Oh, no, I agree with that. No, I totally agree with that. But if you knew that, for example, you're working together and you know that Havasu is having a big balloon thing, you don't want to steal from the balloon thing, but hooked on to the weekend before or the weekend after, Bullhead puts on some kind of event so that the people want to stay for both.
Right, and that's what the chambers are doing, and they definitely are teaming up. And in fact, the mayor was at a meeting with the 3 chambers yesterday to do just that. And your point is very valid on that.
Well, they made a big deal, I don't know if you were at that one seminar session at the League of Cities and Towns, but they did make a big reference to working with your neighboring cities to keep the people there.
They did. So I believe that your conversation here, Sam, is coming to fruition now once the 3 cities get together and have these tourist riders come through our city to start talking about it more in that direction. So
I think, I don't know if it's kind of the same thing, but I don't remember which one of the supervisors brought it up at the last Tri-City Council meeting about having something along the lines like a Mojave County passport.
Yes.
So that you actually go around to the different areas and so on and so forth. Maybe that's something we can develop. I have absolutely no problem with what you suggested. I too agree that we need to put this in the hands of Parks and Rec. They're the ones that understand what makes a success, what doesn't make a success. So yeah, but I also agree that the scorecard, however we do it, and I do think it needs to be made public. And it includes more than just whether or not we broke even or not.
Right.
Because there's so many different aspects, like I said, in my evaluation of it, that made it a success.
Well, and see, and that's the thing, is you think it was a success, I do, maybe everybody here does, but that
Right.
doesn't mean everybody in the city does, so they have to see, what are you judging it as? Where are you
Exactly.
coming up with your idea, it was successful?
And it needs to be standardized so that it's the same every time.
Right.
And that's what I'm envisioning with this item here.
it was, sorry.
And I was gonna say, did we have any discussion about the logo idea, the theme of having sports tournament capital of the world? I mean, if we can centerize on sports tournament capital of the world, I think that gives us something to build on.
I like it.
It was brought up at one of our many workshops and discussions, and when came up, somebody brought it up about the regatta, and why don't we let a nonprofit take it over? And that was a pretty good thought. And we did think about it, so I'd like to ask Ed to come up here and as well as Dave. One of the problems in doing that is does the nonprofits have the resources and the funding to take this over? And two, they still have to use all the city's amenities in that case. So I know we've talked about that, but Ed, you're the chairman of the regatta, so are we on the same wavelength on how this is done, or what your thoughts are?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and council members. In fact, this question just wasn't recent. We've been talking about it for many years. We've reached out to several, Red Bull being one, and seeing if they would consider taking over the event. One of the things that concerned us about an outside entity coming in and taking over this event that we built from 600 participants, now we're at 30,000, which is tremendous growth for any event, and we should all be proud of that. Is we're taking it out of our hands and out of our goals, and I'm glad we're doing the mission statement now, because that will reach out to our community and tell them this is why we're doing this. One of the biggest issues is of another entity coming in, even if it's a local nonprofit, is, well, what I see as our biggest is our police force. I mean, we need to have police out on that river, and we can, under the city manager, it's our police force. It's not Kiwanis, it's not Rotary, it's not Red Bull. Not that the police couldn't work with an outside entity, but definitely that type of structure in public works. Everyone in the city works on this event. So now you'd be asking an outside entity to come in and try to manage basically our city employees. And I don't think that would work very well. I think we do a great job at what we're doing right now. We're managing the growth. We definitely, have had hiccups, and we work to fix those every year. One of the things that I've, kind of branded is we've become social scientists of this event. We're trying to determine what these visitors are going to do and react, and try to be proactive and try to think about, all right, if I'm out there at this time, what's going to happen? Now what's going to happen down here? Now what's going to happen down here? Because every little piece of registration gets backed up, it affects parking. If it affects parking, now the buses are slowing down. So every piece needs to work just right. And we've been doing it for 7 years now, and I don't think there's anyone out there, and maybe there is, maybe I'm short-sighted on that, but and we'll always definitely be looking for someone who can come in and take this huge event if it's feasible to the council and to the city manager. One of the things that probably this event has done compared to any other event we've done over our city's existence is it's not only tourism, but it's made Bullhead City a destination. And if you hear people that talk about special events and tourism, Laughlin's a destination. People come to Laughlin for the game. Lake Havasu's a destination. Kingman's a destination. And now we are too. So, and we should all be definitely very proud of that. Our tournaments are doing the same thing. Now we're bringing people from all over the country for softball tournaments and soccer tournaments. I definitely think we're moving in the right direction. I think we can manage the growth of this event better than anyone. And $12,000 loss to a private person is huge. They're going to see that and say, well, we're not getting the sales tax. We're not getting people moving here, buying homes on the river because they came to the regatta. So they're not getting all those intangible indirects like.
Ed and I had gone up to visit with the Laughlin event people up there regarding the regatta, and they had talked about, well, maybe we can have another regatta in June, just as a precursor to the August regatta. We said, well, that'll be all right, you know. Then it said, but we can't do it ourselves. What are you looking for? Well, we have to use your beaches, we have to use your landing zones, we have to do this and have to do that. And we just don't have the wherewithal, the employees, or the knowledge on how to deal with something like this. The Wade Fowl was a general manager of the Harris casinos, and he had brought down his executives from New Orleans and the rest of their properties to see this regatta. And he had told me that, he says, you know, for years, the properties along the river have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in trying to utilize the river. We've had the jet boat races, we've had speedboat races, we even tried everything and anything in the dragon boat races, which cost almost $200,000 to put on in the river. He said, we gave up on it. And he said, who would think that it took an inch or two to get where we're at with this now? So, and each year, we're able to get a few more bucks from them. And this year, we'll try again. Initially, it was 50,000, and now they're up to 90,000. So each year, we plug away and get more money because they can't handle it. And another person from the casino said, look what happened when they gave the river run. We used to have almost 60,000, 70,000 bikers come up to the Laughlin area. Says now, you get 30,000, you get 40,000, you're lucky. And so that's another thing that when we talked about thoughts as it relates to putting it out there for someone else. And if there is someone else, hey, we'll talk to anybody.
One thing we are doing, Mr. Mayor, is we are with, because we have a limited amount of staff, we are branching out. We are, like, a recent hiring of CSC to help with the water valet, getting people out, doing security, doing a lot of the stuff we were relying on volunteers in the past for. This year, we're looking to get a transportation company to come in and manage the entire, from top to bottom, the bus system. So, and we're also looking in to another company to do the registration or help out with the registration, because it is taxing on our staff to try to keep up with the growth of this event. And by branching out and bringing in these event professionals, we still have the control over the event. However, we have someone, all right, why is this bus not doing what it's supposed to do? Why is this registration line slowing down? And we can hold, those people accountable for it, because, they have the experience in these large, events up to 600,000 people. So they know how to move the line, keep the flow going, and so the rubber band, it's gonna stretch, but so it doesn't break.
Anyone got any input?
I have a question. Because of the growth of regatta, how big it's got really pretty fast, what about capping it at like 30,000? This is it, 30,000, no more. Because you've already experienced that, you've already pretty much experienced that, what it's like to have that many people. Maybe you could turn it into a little more profitable and structured environment. 30,000 people is a lot of people.
If you're not, because see, what she's saying makes sense from the standpoint of you're not then shooting at a moving target. You have said this is the max. And it makes people want to register sooner. I'm not saying what the number is, whether it's 30 or 40 or whatever, but a cap on it makes sense.
It is capped.
It is.
Out of curiosity though, isn't it capped by default? There's only so many hotel rooms in Laughlin, so I mean, there's a cap by default, isn't there?
No, because you have all the residents that can have people.
We
I could have a whole
capped
bunch of people
We
in my
capped
house.
it at 25,000.
Didn't we have 29.3?
Yes, but that's all. There was no T-shirts for the additional rents. There were, and if they registered late, they paid an extra, what, a week?
So the price went up, but I mean, in theory, there could have been more than 30,000. And it was really who showed up on Saturday to float. So, I mean, yes, we bought 25,000 shirts and prepared for 25,000 hot dogs, but there could have been more, and there's no true now, we can certainly look at that. It has some issues.
If this thing keeps growing every year, you're gonna lose money every year because you're not prepared. I mean, this is how I see it. Because you're not prepared, you don't know what's coming. You know, you got an additional, 4,300 people from the cap of 25. That's still, I mean, that's,
We gotta look back to what, during the workshop where we had the regatta, we found out that $20,000 was lost because we didn't sufficiently handle the transportation at the end of the event. That cost us $20,000 right there. So it wasn't because we had too many T-shirts or it wasn't anything other than we didn't have the transportation part set up. That's what cost us our money, was the transportation snafu at the end cost us 20 grand. So I don't know that, now that we know what the problem was, is that we had people starting too late to finish at a time when we didn't budget transportation. Now, that's something for you guys to address. In other words, my solution to that problem is our buses stop at 6 o'clock. You float past that 6 o'clock time frame, you're on your own. That's mine. I know that's not staff's, but in effect, that's exactly the only thing a cap would do, because, I mean, even if you did cap it at 30,000, if we just said we're going to have 30,000 people there, if they float till 7 o'clock, we still got to have somebody there at 7 o'clock. We could still lose money. So, I mean, there's other things that we have to do
but at least you're controlling, you're getting you're having some kind of consistency, because you haven't had, the numbers just keep growing, and it just keeps getting, I mean, 672 up to 29.3 in 7 years, that's huge. That's huge. And so really,
For the last couple of months.
But it's also been 29,000 for the last two.
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah.
I hesitate about having to put a specific cap on it, because I think it's capping itself, number one. Number two, I feel like we already did that by 25,000 T-shirts and hot dogs and things like that, and so on and so forth. The cost to the city didn't increase because we didn't have enough shirts or police officers or things of that nature. So I don't really know what cost we would save by capping it. By saying, okay, you're 30,001, sorry, we'll see you next year. I don't see how we save
They
any
flow
money that
without
way.
registering.
I don't see how we save it.
Purpose.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people come back and they'll return, and new people come back. There was
I also saw a lot of people last year on Sunday go out and tube.
there were a lot.
They went back and tubed down the river again on Sunday.
We've actually been talking about the capping since we hit, 10,000. What's that number? What's that number gonna be? It's just, have we reached it yet? And I think, as Councilman Medrano said, I think the event will begin to cap itself by the hotel rooms. And when you bring up, the residents, most of the residents that work in this event, I mean, everybody, it's all hands on deck in this town. Everyone, they're doubling up their staff at all the businesses and of course the casinos, so. I think safety will determine a cap as well. How much can we control on the river? The transportation at the end was an issue. People stayed on the river longer. They turned it into a beach party and anywhere they could find a place, and we're gonna work to fix that issue as well, so we can get people off the river sooner.
That was an interesting aspect in the Parker float, which is 2 months beforehand. And I went down and watched that. And that was a pretty standard thing, was to float part of the way, stop, have a barbecue, and then continue on. I don't know if we could take advantage of that in any way, shape, or form, but that is an issue.
Any other questions? No?
Did we get any,
Yeah, the general consensus of this is we will work with the Park and Rec Commission. We will generate a mission statement. If any of you have any ways that you want to give your input, please let myself and Dave and I will meet with you and be happy to talk about it. So the goal is create a special event mission statement. That's what we'll do. We'll work with the Park and Rec Commission to do it. We will create a scorecard and have something with measurable results. Essentially, you're looking for performance measurements for special events, not just tied to dollars and cents, although obviously that's one of the most important provisions of any scorecard for us, but also economic impact, and that's why we're surveying participants, and so we'll create a scorecard to go along with our mission statement.
and the logo in the
Right.
sports tournaments?
And so those will be presented at a future Park and Rec Commission meeting, and ultimately I will keep you all in touch with that as we move forward.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, it'll be on Wednesday's Parks and Rec Commission meeting for the
Okay.
mission statement.
Good.
And just to add one more thing, koozies, patches, caps, those are some of the things we've given out in the last few softball tournaments, so we're doing kind of that same thing.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but they like the souvenir stuff, so if it was different from year to year with the simple logo,
Yeah, they always get
That's
a
a sports
shirt every
tournament.
year, but now we've gotten into the habit of giving them something in addition to a shirt, some other kind of souvenir.
I think that's an opportunity for us to continue. If they're wearing a shirt that says sports tournament capital of the world on it with a picture, whatever the shirt contest comes up, I just think it's a great idea to continue to promote our plus it ties in the community. We have how many entries for the regatta t-shirts every year? We get several of them, and I think it's opportunity just to get the community involved.
Becomes memorabilia.
What's that?
Becomes memorabilia too.
And that's-
Very nostalgic, and
and
people
I just-
call me for first year shirts for regatta.
Yeah, I keep going back to what Bill Weaver had to deal with just the referees. They wanted something new every year. And they got it for free.
Any more questions? No? Okay. Thanks, Sam. And Toby, you got? Yeah, there you go. Let me see. You just